The world of Harry Potter, Hogwarts, the sound of childhood for lots of people who read this book series during their childhood or teenage years. And last year we received a game in the world of Harry Potter, Hogwarts Legacy. The game being available on all of actual platforms, starting with consoles and ending with PC. PC gaming also allows you to play using controller, which in my opinion is the best option because of the comfort and auto aim in game, which makes casting spells pretty easy and more comfortable. The Avalanche studio is not famous for creating lots of open world games. Mostly that were games in Disney universes like Toy Story, Disney Infinity and Cars. Hogwarts is one of the biggest projects for them right now, and in my opinion, they got it pretty right. The main golden line of the game is the fan service for the fans of Harry Potter universe. We got an open world of Hogwarts and the neighborhood like the Hogsmeade village and some other magical locations like dungeons, old castles and small villages for witches and wizards. The fan service here is everywhere. The whole game is one big fan service, starting with lots of references to books and films like well-known locations and ending with a reference to the Magical Beast film series with the same magical knapsack like Newt had from the films to catch different magical beasts. The same characters and names we've heard from films and books like Headmaster Black, Professor Weasley, House Elves, Room of Requirement, and the list goes on and on. But let's talk about the plot. Spoilers away, the plot is pretty trivial. We have the main character who is the chosen one, who can see and use ancient magic. Our main character is some type of a special student who has skipped the first 4 years of Hogwarts and right now is being admitted to the 5th course. The lore of the Harry Potter universe tells us that that is something unreal since we have never met something similar both in books and in films, but I guess that is the only option left to make player associate himself or herself with the character because of the age and offer slow progression in terms of learning different spells and in-game mechanics. Missions and quests. In the basis of the plot we have a mystery of an ancient magic and the main quest will be to understand what it is and stop bad guys, goblins in this case, from acquiring it. Nothing special here if comparing to the games most people have played before, almost every plot of Assassin's Creed is similar to this one. Grind, skill set, level dependent quests, all of it we have been seeing in the game series from Ubisoft. Anyway, side quests are not bad, but still the golden line of the game, fan service, and especially here, the fan service shows its power. Gobstone's game like in the books, saving the beast like in the Magical Beast film series. Collect some collectibles, pure visuals, but here is a lot of stuff to collect, starting from the clothing and ending with the furniture for the Room of Requirement. Solving Merlin trials to open more slots for clothing items, free people, pets, and so on. The variability is close to none since all of the side quests are similar to one another with the basis of the quest fan service to feel the nostalgia about the universe. Talking about Merlin trials to have more guild slots. I suppose originally it was designed for the player to find these trials by accident and gradually increasing the capacity of your so-called backpack. But in reality, after the first couple of hours of the gameplay, you'll have all of your slots full, so you desperately will be looking for these trials in order to not leave some clothing items behind. The game doesn't have another place to stash your clothes you like visually. There are only 3 options available: wear it, sell it, or drop it. So the standard 20 slots won't be nearly enough for you at all. And even after opening all of the slots, you'll still feel tension since even 30 slots are not even nearly enough for all of the clothes you can find in-game. The trials itself are pretty easily, and after 5th or 6th trial, you'll know the solution to all of them, so variability here is bad as well. Continuing the talk about variability, dialogues. There are dialogue options in games since it's RPG after all, but all of the dialogue options despite the first lines leave you with the same outcome. The options for the character to answer are politely or to answer very politely. The outcome will be the same. Forget the Baldur's Gate 3, Witcher or even Cyberpunk, here everything is family friendly. And it brings us to another issue with the game, family friendly. Does not sound like an issue. Unfortunately here the game rated PG-12, we do not have any controversial characters like at all. For example, we have an in-game character Ominous Gaunt from the family Voldemort came from. but even he, despite potential to be controversial, being obsessed with dark magic, heritage of Salazar, Slytherin, etc., here Ominous is totally against dark magic. He is top positive character with positive attitude towards protagonist. In books and in games, we had characters who were rude, obsessed with purity of blood. For God's sake, the part of the Goblet of Fire books was the description of almost all Hogwarts students bullying Harry Potter, but here whoever we come to are positive, willing to help in all ways possible. It hits hard on the in-game world since realism, even though we're talking about fantasy world, is very badly scripted. There are bad characters like some goblins or wizards, but there are no such thing as controversial characters like for example Severus Snape from books and films. All we have is either totally good or totally bad with no in-between. So, as I said before, family-friendly in all ways. Fighting, in my opinion, is the best part of the game after the fan service, since me being a fan of Harry Potter universe. Fighting, especially with lots of enemies, is super fun, especially after you have learned several spells. Casting spells, especially on gamepad, dodging, casting shield, counterattack, everything is fun, and I found myself just walking around the Forbidden Forest trying to find some enemies to fight too, because action is what makes this game very visually appealing. Mentioning spells straight from the books and films, and the more you learn, the more fascinating the fights will get. Of course, if you choose to learn unforgivable spells, almost the only real choice you have in game, it will make fighting an interesting sandbox, combining usual spells, spells with cooldown time, ancient magic, and unforgivable spells like Imperial, making your enemy attack other enemies, or Crucio, dealing the huge damage to the enemy after casting with a ricochet from the basic spell to other enemies. And of course, Avada Kedavra, ultimate spell to kill instantly. It may seem that ancient magic is the ultimate spell, but it only deals huge damage and that's pretty much it. For example, in order to kill a troll, you'll need to cast 5 to 6 casts of ancient magic, while with Avada Kedavra, you'll need only 1 spell cast. Of course, it was debuffed by a long cooldown time, but having such spell in your arsenal is worth it, since you'll be able to kill annoying enemies like trolls instantly, since they can take a lot of damage and are resistant to some spells like for example the Pulso, so these spells will not damage them at all. Of course, since the protagonist is the chosen one, he feels imbalanced comparing to anyone else, but let's say it is more for fun in the game. Bosses. One of the main minuses of the game is the amount of bosses in game and their power. The only really challenging is the final boss, the others are just regular NPCs with slightly increased amount on health. Nothing challenging and the amount is hideous, so minus here. And it brings us to the development of the character. The tree is super simple with no multi-abilities like in Cyberpunk, but the simplicity is what makes this development tree easy to understand and you can see the result of your development straight after, with no need to getting used to new perks for example. Mostly you can divide all perks to fighting and stealth. I do not know who will actually master stealth first, since as mentioned before, fighting is super fun and challenge of fights is not very high, so no Elden Ring or Dark Souls here, but the skills are almost totally passive, but from my opinion it's okay here. Graphics. It won't be the 2023 game without decent graphics. The picture here is more than beautiful. Fanservice still impacts, since everything will feel better when you understand all of the references, and while the picture is being similar to what have been seen in films. The only problem is that sometimes the game will crash if you have all of the ray tracing turned on, but it happens rarely and doesn't happen to everyone. Optimization here is worse than in Cyberpunk 2.1, the frame rate on R7 and RTX 3070 is somewhere in between 27 and 50 FPS, depending on the location of course, but the drops of the FPS can be noticed, since even in the same Hogwarts castle it may vary a lot, even though the crowd density here is not nearly the same as in the same Cyberpunk. Another minus here is the fact that you are unable to run the game in other than native resolution of your monitor. It may not be an issue for people with 1080p or 2K monitors, but if you have not the latest hardware with 4K monitor, like I have, you'll meet problem of lowering the graphic settings to almost low everything, since even with DLSS turned on, you'll never have something better than 40 FPS on 4K on 3070. Bugs here can also be met, but there are no critical ones. That doesn't allow you to continue playing, just some visuals and that's it. Talking about the music, the motives here are the same as everything else in game, well known, so fanservice here as well. It is not purely the soundtrack from the Harry Potter films or the magical beasts, but the atmosphere the soundtrack creates is absolutely the same. Summarizing everything, is Hogwarts Legacy a good game? It is Assassin's Creed in Harry Potter world, with lots of grind, poor plot, very often uninteresting side quests, and very old gaming mechanics like level lock for some quests, bringing you to very scripted scenario of walkthrough. There is no such option as trying to beat the final boss with only some basic spells, since level gap is everything here. It is not as annoying as it is in Assassin's Creed, since you can gain levels pretty easily, but still it hurts the options of walkthrough. This game, in simple words, is a fanservice game. If you are a fan of the universe, you'll enjoy walking around finding Easter eggs here and there, but if you are here for the plot, you'll be disappointed. Fun game to play after work with zero thoughts while listening to the podcast in the background, nothing more. But if you are even slightly enjoying the universe of the Harry Potter, you'll enjoy the game, bringing you back to your childhood.